Thank you, Mrs. Francis, His Excellency, Mr. Babajan, Dr. Supachai, and Mr. Lamy for your comments, and we understand, of course, the need to leave. I'm pleased to now introduce to you the next group of experts in this second part of the opening session. Her Excellency, Mrs. Victoire Ndikumana, Minister of Trade, Industry, and Tourism in Burundi, Mr. Ed Fuller, President and Managing Director, Marriott International Lodging, Dr. Taleb Rifai, Secretary General of the World Tourism Organization, His Excellency Ambassador Lucius Vasesha, Ambassador to the Permanent Mission of Switzerland to the WTO and representing the Swiss Secretariat for Economic Affairs. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming back to the podium Ms. Patricia Francis. Patricia?
We have some really tight schedules today because, as you may know, there are a number of people who are attending multiple events. So I'm first going to ask Ed Fuller if he'd come forward and make his presentation, and then Dr. Rifai to also make his presentation, and then we'll take quick questions because I think they have to leave. And then we'll finish with the rest of the panel, if you don't mind. So, Ed, please. Ed is the president of Marriott Hotels.
It's a pleasure to be with you today, and I'm going to attempt something because I generally fear audio-visual, but I've hit the button twice, and I'm very fearful that it's not working, so I'll go on and just proceed without audio-visual. We're glad to be with you today, and it is an opportunity that I think gives us a chance to talk about Marriott and how we can work in the community. Good. Just leave that slide there, please. No, go back to it. Okay. And Marriott Hotels is a division of Marriott Corporation, which is involved with over 18 different brands worldwide. And lodging in hotels is one part of the world tourism story. In our environment, we believe that we can bring to the various countries that we serve a multiple of services, not only employment, not only opportunities to bring tourists to a destination, but also to promote the destinations we serve. It's one aspect of our business, but we also have a responsibility to the community. And when we announce a hotel, we are quick to talk about the involvement in the community as being part of our responsibility. Marriott basically, and let's just change to the next slide, please, because this device is not working, is an important part of the community that serves the community. It serves the people that reside with the community, and we have a social responsibility strategy, one that we talk about as SERVE, which indicates that we spend time on the community beyond the hotel itself. We focus efforts in shelter and food, the environment, and readiness for hotel careers, as well as vitality of children and embracing global diversity. This for us is a mandate for our company. Sheltering could be projects that our associates work in the community with, such as Habitat for the Community. Environment is one I'll spend a little more time on in a second. Readiness for careers is absolutely developing people in the community. Our executives today in our corporate environment come from our hotels. And where we have been in the market for long periods of time, and we're in 72 different countries, we believe that we can prepare people for careers inside their country as well as out. and it starts in their early education. Vitality of children is a responsibility that we have been involved in for some time. Youth Career Initiatives is one of our biggest programs in many countries, as well as another development dealing with the people in need. And, of course, diversity. We are focused on developing people in all backgrounds as we go forward. We ensure that we are clear investors of time, money, energy, and effort in the people in the community we serve. Two examples, real quickly, if the slides are there, would be one project that we have been involved in for the environment has been the rainforest in Brazil, a country we've been involved with for some time. And we've committed over $2 million to this rainforest. It is both environmentally sensitive, but it is also sensitive to the community it serves by providing schooling and other services for the environment in the rainforest, so that we are providing ambulances on the boats. We provide schooling, education, food, and other services. A more recent one that we have just introduced is the Nobility of Nature in China, which is focused on clean water, and I have just given up on the slides altogether. This was a $500,000 commitment to the community to ensure clean water for the communities around China, and again is a focus on environment. And in the short time I've had, I wanted to again assure you that building a hotel has more responsibility than just building the hotel. Creating the jobs, which is also extremely important, but is also essential that you reinvest in the communities you serve. And it is a responsibility that Marriott takes very seriously. Thank you.
I think the Deputy Prime Minister is going to take his leave now. Thank you very much, Deputy Prime Minister, and we very much thank you for your hospitality. Now, we heard about the other WTO, and there is, of course, when you're talking tourism and the tourism industry, they don't really know about the one in Geneva, they know about the one in Madrid. So I'm going to ask the Secretary General of the World Tourism Organization, Talib Rafai, to come forward and tell us a bit about his vision.
Thank you so much. Good morning, dear friends, ladies and gentlemen. It's been said this morning about a colleague of ours, Juan Somovia, that he was the fifth speaker, and what he said was, everybody said what needs to be said except me. Well, I'm, by counting, the sixth speaker, and everybody said what needs to be said, except the person that is most relevant to this topic matter, which is tourism. But in a very special and ironic way, this gives me a great pleasure. A few years ago, our voice at UNWTO would have been a lonely voice, as if we are speaking about a human activity and a sector that relates only to the people that have dreams and the people that can afford to dream. Today, I hear ITC organizing a special event on this, focusing for the first time on this important human activity beyond the sector, as Pascal Lamy said. I hear the Director General of the World Trade Organization highlighting the importance of tourism in the service sector. I hear and I see all of our sister agencies gathering around us and asking us what can we do together. And we hear a deputy prime minister of one of the most important countries and a success stories in the area of tourism, just making a powerful commitment to that sector. That indeed gives me a great pleasure. Whether I'm the first speaker, the sixth speaker, or the 60th speaker, it doesn't really matter. What matters is that there is finally an acknowledgement as to the fact that tourism is become a central global phenomena, a human activity that has defied all odds. People need to move, people want to move, people feel it is their absolute human right to move. And while moving around, they're creating this wonderful energy, creating so many jobs, generating so much income, and making lives of people better. This energy, this human activity called tourism, joins many other sectors around the world that are being unnoticed very clearly nowadays. Sectors like tourism, like sports, like creative art, like culture, are taking over in terms of their impact on human life than the traditional sectors that shows fatigue. When we hear the Deputy Prime Minister of a country like Turkey says that 10 million people are working in the service sector, while 5 million people are working in the industry, that can tell you something. This is definitely not a call to abandon the traditional, very important backbone sectors of production in this world, but it is definitely a call to pay more and more attention to the sectors that are taking over, employing more people, this new wave of service sectors, sports, tourism, culture, and art deserves from us much more attention and commitment. And the attention and commitment is the responsibility of many, many stakeholders and players. Governments have the major responsibility, because with power and with affluence, like the travel and tourism is acquiring so quickly, comes responsibility. And it is the message of responsibility that I would very briefly want to share with you. This responsibility is very simply summarized in the fact that we need to meet the needs of today's tourists and host communities while protecting and enhancing our opportunities for the future. I was delighted to hear Deputy Prime Minister Babajan saying, we don't want to call it tourism, let's just call it sustainable tourism to know what we're talking about. It is this kind of tourism that we're talking about. Governments around the world have the greatest responsibility in this. In each and every country, governments have to design very good, well-designed policy frameworks that is at the center of successful and responsible tourism development. Governments have the power to prevent unsustainable practices, create basic standards, and provide incentives for more sustainable investments in tourism. This is the core responsibility of government. Public financing is essential for enabling sustainable tourism development, and governments and international organizations, all of which should facilitate the financial flow of tourism sector while prioritizing sustainability principles. But the private sector has a greater responsibility, and I'm glad that the speaker before me was Ed Fuller, particularly Ed Fuller, with a very good story to tell. I'm not here to make any bragging about Marriott. He's much more qualified than me to do that, but it has been a success story. We refer to it always as an example of good practice. Corporate social responsibility has become even more important nowadays, and particularly when applied to least developed countries. We are saying in our colloquial language in the circle of UNWTO, we cannot build 5-star hotels in 2-star community. We need to make sure that people live from the travel and tourism industry, not of tourists. We have a responsibility to uplift people and not create islands of luxury and islands of affluence in the midst of most deprived community. This very essential responsibility is in the core of our objectives. Of course, the responsibility is not only social and economic, which is most important, but it's also towards our environment. The private sector has a great, great role in doing that. Our challenge is, again, not with the Marriotts or with the people that we could know who to talk to and how to talk to and put them accountable. Our challenge is with the fact that the travel and tourism industry is primarily consistent of small and medium-sized enterprises. And it becomes more challenging to work with that, although more exciting, and we have seen better results achieved by working directly with the community. My final thought is to leave with you a very important guideline and document that UNWTO has produced and is proud to have put on the scene in the last 10 to 12 years. In 1999, the World Tourism Organization, UNWTO now, the good WTO, has approved in its General Assembly in Chile a very important document called the Global Code of Ethics in Tourism. It is a document that was subsequently, in 2 years, in 2001, adopted by the General Assembly of the United Nations unanimously, and the General Assembly requires us to submit a report on the promotion and implementation of this Code of Ethics every 5 years. And we did so last year in September 2010, and for the first time, the UN General Assembly had praised the work done in that regard. The Global Code of Ethics consists of 9 articles that really simply just explain the rules of the game. They are articles that touch on climate change, biodiversity, poverty reduction, the protection and empowerment of vulnerable sectors of the society, particularly women and children, that should never, ever be victims of the growth and the spreading of this industry, and the economic and social sustainability of tourism development, access to education, training and decent work, and responsible business practices in the travel sector. To date, 116 UNWTO member states and territories have advanced the implementation of the Code of Ethics. Approximately 60 amongst them have incorporated the principles in their local legislations, and we think this is something that we would like to keep with you to help us promote this very important practice. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for choosing tourism to be the topic of this year's interactive session. Thank you for joining us. We're proud of the partnership that we're having